Far Cry's coming to America.
Welcome to Hope County, y'all.
Hello and welcome to a bonus episode of Triangle Squared.
Bonus.
Bonus. This episode is going to be our thoughts and impressions on Far Cry 5. As a upfront thing, neither me or Saul have quite beat the game, but we are very close, or at least I am very close. I think Saul is. What have you?
I am
you had to give
fully done with one section, and I am about done with the second. So I am almost two-thirds
I'm
done.
halfway through the last section.
Okay, so yeah, you've had a little bit more time to play than I have.
And I've played quite a bit of multiplayer and stuff. But
yeah,
we
multiplayer's
are
fun.
Triangle Squared, a PlayStation podcast. We normally come to you every Monday at 10 a.m. Pacific and 12 p.m. Central Standard Time on YouTube in video format or in audio-only format on podcast services. If you enjoy what we do, give us a review if it's on podcast services. Those help us get a little bit ranked up higher so people can find us a little easier. And if you watch us on YouTube, hey, do what you want to do. But, hey, other thing is, if you like us, let your friends know about us. You know, that's one of those things.
And let us know in the comments what you thought of Far Cry 5.
Absolutely.
Did you like it? Did you hate it? What's the story like? Too political? I hope not, because I don't really see eye to eye.
We're gonna get into that in the spoilers section of this, but let's start this thing off wholesome.
Yeah, we will definitely say there is no spoilers until we make it so. You will definitely know there will be a moment of silence after we say it. So if your computer freezes, you got a couple seconds to X out of there.
One of the things I'm gonna say at the and I'm gonna say beforehand that's very, very, very lightly could be considered spoiler. It has something to do just with specifically the setup of the game, and it's a problem with. It's very light, and it's a personal problem, but before we get into all that, I'll make sure that is all. You know, we'll always, give a warning before we do anything that's even remotely spoilerish, but we will try and keep the majority, and I mean the majority, behind our spoiler wall. But Saul, first thing I want to kind of talk about, and I think it's the easiest way to do this from the non-spoiler side, is kind of talk about the mechanics, how much they stay true to the original Far Cry things, how much they change in a positive or negative way, and what people can expect from the changes that are there. So, loosely, one of the things I want to do is I kind of want to see what you think, because you're coming back for the first time since realistically Far Cry 2.
Yeah.
Though you dipped into 3 just a tad.
Very little.
And
those were wet.
And you didn't play 4 or Primal at all,
no.
Correct? Okay, so with that being said.
Not at all.
I think that we're going to come from very different stances on this, because my thing is that I've come from playing Far Cry 2, 3, Blood Dragon, 4, Primal, and now 5.
And another thing is that I played 2 on the 360, of course.
Oh, and I played on PS3. I don't think that'll be
so long that a lot of those mechanics are lost on me. So I may be a good proxy for someone who's never played this series in a sense.
Yeah. So
I remember the story. I remember malaria. I remember a lot of things.
Yeah. So one of the things that I know you'll remember that is obviously missing, and it was missing starting in 3.
Gun jams.
Yeah. That's something that when they took away,
it was cool.
I understood
for like the first 2 or 3 times it happened, and then it was annoying.
Well, okay, I like the added challenge of that, but that's going all the way back to 2. So hopping forward, 3, 4, none of those games have had gun jams. That was part of a move towards trying to be a little more accessible while still trying to maintain what felt like Far Cry. So from a mechanic standpoint, a couple of things I want to talk about are the game. Very first and foremost, the best way to word this is just the game feels unmistakably like when you're playing it, from your moment-to-moment gameplay, it feels like Far Cry.
It does.
I mean, even going back all the way to Far Cry 2, it feels like Far Cry. That's a great thing. I mean, you always hope that a game keeps its identity just enough that when you're playing it, you go, this is that series. It doesn't matter what they've changed.
And it does it well, too. It's to me, and this is, once again, not saying much since I haven't played since 2, and I remember bits and pieces of 2, but... Yeah,
but it feels like you're coming home to something, right?
It almost feels natural. Like everything about it has felt pretty natural as to what I was expecting jumping into it.
Yeah, because Far Cry's always existed in this weird in between where it is a first person shooter and very unmistakably so. I mean, it's got a ton of first person shooter mechanics, but then it brings things in that are typically reserved for third person shooters, which I actually like, which is the idea, and it handles it differently. But the idea of a weapon wheel.
Yeah, I love
and
the weapon
that
wheel in
does
this
come
game.
from the idea that you can carry multiple weapons, whereas a lot of more realistic shooters and a lot of shooters in general
You get like 2.
tend to go towards just a primary weapon and a secondary weapon. It's either 2 or sometimes it's even limited to like a primary gun and a sidearm.
Yeah.
So not all games do that, obviously, and that's something that's been changing. There are other games in the first-person genre that use it, normally very story-driven, which traditionally Far Cry has been, I would consider story-driven. It's part of the charm and build around Far Cry. But from a mechanical standpoint of shooting a gun, feeling the gun, aiming the gun, it feels like from 2 onward, they've carried a similar feeling that just feels so good. It's one of those don't fix what's not broken things. So, I mean, it's very snappy. It's fluid. It feels quick. Even at 30 frames per second, it feels responsive,
Yeah.
I guess is the best way to say it.
I can't explain it. There's just a satisfaction when playing. And it doesn't matter what really you're doing. It can be, a couple things aren't as satisfactory as others. Like vehicle driving is still kind of meh to me.
Honestly, just as a quick butt in there, I mean, I hopped in a vehicle yesterday and I was just driving, and I've not done just a ton of vehicle driving in this, but I did one of my first thoughts was, for this game to not really be that important of driving, the driving mechanics in all of the Far Cry so far have still been better than comparable games in open world setups, because I honestly think that from a standpoint, and this is just comparative in my own nature, I thought that it felt much more controlled and reasonable and realistic and grounded than it does in things like Watch Dogs.
Yeah.
Like the first Watch Dogs, didn't play 2, so I'm not going to count there. And even to a greater extent, earlier Grand Theft Auto games. So when you try and compare it to other games in the genre, I don't know about 5. I know that 4 still had very wonky driving.
I think for me, though, it's first person. It's the first person thing.
Probably.
That's what gets me. I'm just glad I don't have to look down at a map anymore.
Why?
Because that was what 2 was.
Yeah,
2 was looking down at a map to find out where you're going.
Oh, the paper map.
Yeah, the paper map.
Yeah,
that's not in this game, thankfully.
Okay, well, so for you, I mean, where do you stand on the mechanics? Because obviously
everything feels great.
Yeah, all the way down to the way that the guns feel. I mean, obviously one of the things we can touch on is that the game lets you play multiple styles. I mean, you can go in balls out, guns blazing. I mean, that's one of probably the more. I don't know. I would feel like that would probably be a more common approach in the game, because it feels good.
What I do.
Yeah, it feels good to be. I mean, that game does handle being very hectic very well.
Yeah.
But one of the things that I've always loved about Far Cry games is actually taking the much more slow tactical approach. So one of my things on the mechanics, and I am curious as to your thoughts on it coming back in, one of the first things that has carried over from even 3, and I think that they were even in 2 in some capacity, is the alarm system and the idea that there's always backup. There's always the ability for reinforcements to be called, and you can take these towers, and if you can stealthily do it, you can take them out before anybody can reach them, and they won't even know it's going on. You'll still see people run to them and say, oh, someone's messed with their comms. I love that. I think that's a cool added feature. But there's something that's very satisfying about that, and that does come from me coming from more of a, I love to play games in the first person genre, like Dishonored and these stealth games that take the first person perspective.
Yeah,
I like those. I thought Thief was really good in that
Still
sense.
Need to play that.
Thief was a weird game and did a lot of things oddly, but I mean, as a feeling, it felt very good to play moment to moment, like just moving around.
Okay.
And that carries through with this. And when you're moving around and keeping that stealth profile, it feels fun to almost be seen and then just to pull yourself back just enough to not be seen.
And that's something it does great is that, there's too many times in which I found, playing, say, Grand Theft Auto or even Fallout, where I feel like that I kill somebody and I feel like that I was saw by somebody who wasn't there. Or I feel like that the stealth kill was compromised by something that they would not have actually seen. And I feel pretty good in this game that unless I shoot an enemy down and they die in plain sight, of course everybody will kind of see and they'll be looking around and they'll call alerts, but they won't immediately know where you are. And that's what I like the most about it. Speaking of stealth stuff, that's how I play this game. And that's how I, always think I will. Only till yesterday before I went to work, I played it and I went in guns blazing, and I just did that for fun because I was like, I disabled both of the alarms. I'm just gonna go ahead and go through here and blow everything up. But what I was doing normally is I have a silenced assault rifle with a red dot. I have a silenced sniper rifle with the highest zoom scope, which isn't that far. That's a complaint. And then of course a bow, and then a silenced pistol. And my favorite thing is to sneak in after I spot everybody, take out the comms, and then kind of back away, and then using my pistol, my sniper, my bow, any of those weapons to kind of pick people off. That's one way. My second way is similar in taking out comms, but it's also running through and then just snapping necks.
Yeah.
And it's so satisfying.
So, I mean, I guess where this comes into, like, mechanics is that, obviously, like we said, the game supports multiple play systems.
Yeah.
So, I mean, like, and what we mean by that is not just the ability to do these things, but the ability to do them all what I would consider well. I mean, when you're going through a stealth it feels responsive and good to really snap to cover, use that to try and hide. You have your indicators on the map, on your screen, which around your HUD that show you, and that it's like, okay, there's not a lot. People can't see you right now, or they can see you, give you a moment to kind of try and move yourself and hide yourself. But if you're in too plain of obvious sight, you can be seen instantly.
Yeah.
So all that feels very responsive. It feels good. It feels like the game supports that, and that it was. I mean, everything feels like it was designed specifically to do that. I love that when you go and snap people's neck, there is every now and then that break of immersion where realistically someone should have seen you, but they didn't catch you, and you're at a weird angle and you still
really
break their
common,
neck.
Yeah, like that even happened in Metal Gear Solid 5.
Sure. And I mean, that's just one of those things that it's always the barrier of how smart can AI be, and while also being balanced to be what most would consider fair, because if the AI is too oh my God, right on you, like it's way too
it's
aggressive, I guess would be an aggressive AI, then slight mistakes start to feel like they're costing you a lot. And with a game like Far Cry, it's about that moment-to-moment fun. So they're trying not to break that. So that also feels good. The fact that even the occasional mess-up isn't just completely destroyed. It doesn't completely ruin your run through at that particular time. The shooting, when you do want to go all out, I mean, if you even actually, we'll stick on the stealth side. When you pull out even though you have complaints about the scope, I mean, the scopes feel good. It feels good. The sway is natural. You have the holding your breath feels right and good. I mean, the moment-to-moment gameplay, and I keep using that wordplay, but I mean, it's just so
fantastic.
Well done.
Yeah.
And I mean, I have not. The only thing I wish I would have actually done that I've not gotten to do is co-op. So I'm not sure how it works across two, but I feel like the game would support that well, just from the building, the base mechanics that are given to each player. I can't imagine that there'd be any reason that they would mess with each other at all. But I've not done co-op yet. I'm sure that there's plenty of our listeners who have. So I'd be interested. I mean, if y'all want to shout out to us and let us know how co-op works, or just hop in a co-op with us one of these days. I got to get some trophies for it anyway.
Yeah, throw a comment down there if you like co-op.
But moving on from the combat mechanics, I mean, the driving mechanics, like you said, I feel like are firm enough, are solid enough that they get the job done and more. They're not just like, I'm going to drive because this is the quickest way, but it's not fun to do so.
Right.
It feels good. It feels rewarding. And then being able to work the combat into such a way that still feels good. Once you get in the car, you can't use the weapon wheel anymore when you're driving, but you do get the ability to use your sidearm, and it'll pull up a reticule that will automatically snap to enemies while you're driving, which is a useful feature. I think you could probably turn that off because there's aim assist that you can turn off completely in the game.
I did that too, yeah.
But I'm not sure if it affects that. But my point being is that it lets you continue driving and do what you're trying to do while still picking off enemies and keeping people from bombarding you when they get all the way around you. You know what I mean? So,
yeah, and the flight is also really good too, like flying a helicopter, a plane. That's also really good, and I love the wingsuit. That's a Far Cry staple, or it's been in Far Cry 3 and 4, right?
Yeah, it wasn't in 2, but it was introduced in the game very late 3. So
was it in Primal?
No, I don't think so.
Okay, I thought that'd be weird, but who knows if Mammoth Skin could.
Man, that's the one I most recently played, but I know that I'm not. I know I didn't do it.
Okay, yeah. So like the wingsuit's really fun. Eventually, I unlocked a perk that allows me, when I fast travel, I drop in. Yeah, and it feels really cool. I just imagine I'm getting dropped off by a helicopter. And I'm just like, and something else.
The flying mechanics are surprisingly good because the other games have always had some form of like a little gyrocopter.
Yeah.
I say
2 didn't work that well, if I remember correctly.
But I can't remember if 2 had it, but I feel like it did. But 3 and 4 had it for sure. And it felt. I mean, it felt good enough to travel, and it was useful because it gave you the ability to go long distances pretty quickly, which is important when you're going to new areas that you've not quite gotten fast travel stuff to. I was actually kind of surprised by the addition of planes. It's one of the few additions where I'm like, they're really trying to add something in that they really weren't bothering in before, and the setup makes sense. I will say, though, both 3 and 4 should have been able to carry planes, and while there is a flight section in 3, it's obviously not as worked out as this. I mean, this is full on, like you can hop in a plane or a helicopter and and there's full sky combat that, again, leaves a little bit to be desired, but it's still a good first attempt. I think that's
and
smooth on
especially
them.
Just having it in the game is an added bonus at that point. Like, it just works pretty well for what it is.
And so one of the mechanics that ties into that, which is like a base setup for how the game works, is that there are hubs that you can go through and you can buy vehicles at, or you can buy planes and stuff at, and you buy them once, and once you've bought them, you can go into your list and you can choose it and you can hit drive and it'll spawn it for you. I think that's good. There's enough of these areas that if you ever feel like you're being too slow of traveling or you're wanting to go do something, that you can change your method of transportation pretty quickly, pretty easily.
Yeah.
Another mechanic I want to move on to, I think that we've pretty much covered traversal pretty well, including
combat,
including the wingsuit. The wingsuit feels really good. I will say that. And it's been consistently responsive across all 3 games. It feels good. It makes sense. You have a natural pull back to keep going, to keep your altitude pull down if you want to kind of dive more.
And I like that when you deploy your parachute using the wingsuit, it actually pulls you back out a little bit.
Yeah.
Like as if your parachute was actually catching wind and pulling you up.
Yeah, so I mean, it feels very authentic.
Yeah.
But the next thing I wanted to move on to was the idea, and they've been in every game so far, but this one did it in such a different way that I actually did enjoy this change. So one of the things about this game that's new is the idea of guns for hire that are specialist. So guns for hire still exist in the game from a normal standpoint, but you can actually just liberate someone, walk up to them. If you don't have a normal follower set up right now, then you can just hire them. They'll pick up a gun, and if they're able to be hired, people are different, but they'll pick up a gun and they'll just start following you. That's cool.
Yeah.
Already a good addition. In previous games, you had to use a token. You'd use a guns for hire token, and it would spawn people to come help you, and it would be people who were that you helped liberate their outposts and stuff. This one being more of a direct approach, it does feel right, like you directly help this person. Maybe you've inspired them to go above and beyond, or maybe they feel like they owe you something. There's a weird connection that I actually think is good about that, and mechanically speaking, it feels like it makes more sense and not having to keep a token for it like you did in the previous game. Being able to do that's great, but you'll find these very specific areas where you can do story missions that are optional story missions, and they will give you I think you do the story missions and they'll give you the ability to do a further mission that's an optional story mission to get this. There's gun for hire specialist, and then there's fang for hire specialist, and the fang for hires are
you get Cheeseburger, the diabetic bear.
I wouldn't consider these spoilers personally, but yeah, there's a dog, there's a cougar, and there's a bear. And it's a grizzly bear. And I'm not going to go into their character traits, but they have their own uses, and it actually feels like the specialists have a real purpose. And that they all do something very specific, and they actually help you in different ways. Not all of them directly follow you, which starts to feel like a good setup, because sometimes you want the support without having to have someone constantly around you. Like, I've actually played the majority of this game without anybody.
I've never had a companion.
Yeah,
at all.
I've had one twice.
It feels so good to be by myself.
Partially why I did it is the game's use, and I guess that is one of those things that we can start to move into. The gun, like we were saying, guns for hire are one and done. You get them, and then you can assign one, and they're assigned to a directional pad button, so you can actually push the button. You can tell them to go to a specific spot. You can aim at an enemy, pull them up in your thing, and then if you hit the button, it'll target them, and the fang for hire or gun for hire will go out of their way to kill that person for you, and different ones will do different things. Some of them will go out guns blazing, while some of them will try and be more stealthy.
Right.
Which is also, I think, is good, because now the specialist, you start to choose based off of your gameplay.
Exactly. Yeah.
Perspective. So that's a good way to tie all this.
It always fits how you play.
The game does such a good job of tying everything back into trying to either aid or go against,
or just complimenting
or complimenting your combat style. So
like Herc is like an explosive specialist, and then you have
there's air specialist, and there's multiples of those.
The cat's name?
Peaches,
yeah, she's stealth.
And I've used her.
And I thought about using her because I forgot what it is. I know she sneaks up. She doesn't mark because that's the dog, right?
Okay,
the
dog marks. The cougar, and one of the few times it's been good is that she will help you. Like, if you die, you can choose to cling to life, and then you have a little circle around you, and she will come to you as long as she can reach you, and she will lick you. And it takes a few seconds, but basically she'll clean your wounds up, and you can get back up.
That's kind of cool.
So it's useful for that. But like I said, everything complements. So there's like a cycle in this game, or not a cycle. I guess it's a what would be a good word for it? It's like a synergy to everything, where everything tries to loop back around to trying to make sure that the combat is as fun as possible, and then it just it continues to go. So I mean, it works really well in that sense. But what I was wanting to move on to, Lord, done lost track. What were we talking about right before?
Guns for Iron Companions.
I guess I was trying to say something else about the way the companions work, or about something that the companions made me think of that led into.
I don't know.
Okay. But I mean, I don't know. Regardless of how that works, it's just I'm glad that everything feels like it's there for a reason, and that it goes back to complement your combat. I'm trying to think of other new things. Like one of the changes, I guess I can go ahead and say, is interesting because it's not the first time we've seen it in a new Ubisoft game in their attempt to try and change things up. Though this game does it in a far less drastic, and I have my thoughts on that, but a far less drastic measure. One of the things that they've done is that all the games have always had a mini map, and it was always in the bottom left corner, like you've come to expect. That has been taken away and actually been replaced by the same thing that Assassin's Creed Origins chose to use, which is a compass bar, similar to Skyrim.
The HUD is very clean in this game.
It's a very minimal HUD.
Yeah.
The only thing that's realistically on your screen is
the compass.
Is the compass up front, and it gives you, it tells you what direction you're kind of going. It gives you where enemies are. You can see them in terms of just what general direction they are.
Yeah, like a little red diamond.
It'll kind of show you how far away you are from certain objectives or from certain outposts or things that you have or have not completed. That's a nice change. Clearing the HUD up is surprisingly fun, and we were talking about the HUD being clean. There are things that come up when they're contextually important, like when you shoot the gun, you see the HUD come up for your ammo, and it's still small and out of the way, but you can see it.
Yeah, like main quest
it's
markers
unobtrusive.
Are golden.
Yeah, that's the best way to do it. It's unobtrusive, and it comes up when you shoot, and it goes back away after a few seconds of you not shooting, when they basically understand that you're not going to be shooting anymore.
Right.
And then that goes into stealth, so you can still be in.
And you can also tap square to check your ammo capacity and stuff you currently have. Like, I'll be wandering around, and it took me a while to realize, like, do I need to stop right by the shop and buy ammo? And I'd hit Y or triangle real quick just to make sure that I had ammo.
Yeah.
You can actually just tap square, and it shows your current gun's capacity and stuff that you have.
Yeah, and one way I'll do that, too, so I can see all my stuff at once is just pull up the weapon wheel and look at everything. But, I mean, that's one way to go about doing it. But that change for the HUD is really nice. Seeing the game be that clean is a good change. Now, one of the things I'm going to go to, I want to wrap up mechanics or, small changes at least to the way the game is set up. I'm trying to think of other changes. One of the things that you will know, and this is basically a mechanic, is that the previous games would always use the idea that you're going to climb a radio tower, you're going to set this radio tower back up. Now communications are open,
and now your map,
and it's going to pull the map
bigger
out, and you're going to see everything that's an event that you have or have not completed, if depending on what you've done. And there are multiples of these per sector, I guess is the way you'd want to call it, because the games have always been kind of set up around the idea of people will have their own section of a map, and they'll be like the main bad guy for that section. You'll work through that whole section, you'll get to them, and you'll kill them, and then you'll continue on with what you're doing, or whatever. You may not kill them, I guess. It depends on what story you're playing. But that does continue on in this game. You do have an overmap, and that overmap is divided into sections based off of leaders, basically.
Yeah.
So having the ability to get rid of the radio towers, and which I actually liked that the game
joked about at the very beginning.
The game talks about it, and they make it known that, hey, this is something that we're going to be changing. So I like that they're doing it in a lighthearted way. That's cool, while also kind of referencing the history of the series.
Yeah, it was pretty funny when I first heard it.
Yeah, my opinion, that's a welcome change. Not that it was annoying, because you had far less games of doing it.
Yeah, that's true.
But it's refreshing. And I enjoy that that's something that I don't have to think about doing every time I do something now. Instead, you get into an area,
and you just explore. Like, your map's fully
and as you explore, basically you have a fog of war kind of going on.
It's kind
and as you go through it, it'll brighten up, and you'll see the real color of what you're doing.
Which still doesn't hinder you in any way. The fog. Actually, I didn't realize that there was fog on the map until
Well, and it's basically like they gray the areas out, and as you move through them, it'll open up and kind of expand. I wouldn't necessarily call it Fog of War as much as it's obviously just trying to show you what you have and have not been to.
It's not, and even then, like main mission locations are still visible too.
Yeah, that way you'll know where you're going. Which, I mean, that makes sense. I would want that across all my games.
Especially how big this game feels, because the game feels huge.
So the game kind of takes that idea, and one of the ways that they try and make the game feel good, which I actually think is nice, is the idea of they're called prepper stashes. And basically what's set up for a prepper stash is there's multiple in the area that you're in, and you go and you'll read a setup that tells you basically of what someone's done or why they may have moved something into a specific stash.
Or you'll save somebody who gives you this information too.
Yeah, or well, basically what they'll do is just tell you where it's at on the mini map so that you can go there. You can still run by them organically. But once you get there and you read it, it'll be inside of a box, and it'll be something like, hey, if you're doing this, then this is where my stuff's hidden. Or, hey, if you're my family and you're looking for something, this is where the stuff is. Or, hey, I've left. Here's stuff if you can use it. But the setup allows you to, and it uses it almost like puzzles, because it'll actually take this to try and make you do different things in the game to try and come back, solve what you need to do to get into these prepper stashes, and you're rewarded handsomely for it. So one of the mechanics we hadn't brushed up on yet is skill tree. And actually it's less of a tree and more of just a skill list. And what I like about it is that to finish the thought specifically on the prepper stashes is you get money from the prepper stashes and you go in, and every prepper stash has 3 perk point magazines. Basically, they're survival magazines. You pick them up, they give you a perk point. The idea behind this is that when you go into your menu, I mean, just like every other Far Cry game so far, you build points through other things. There's challenges in this game that you can do that give you points. So a lot of things start to try and tie back into it, and a lot of them are trying to reward you for varying up your gameplay style. Like, so getting so many kills with one type of weapon, so many kills with a sniper rifle, so many kills with a rocket launcher, and you get rewarded for that. There's rewards that you get for getting kills with certain types of specialists. Are certain types of projectiles or grenades, throwables, things like that. But the way the progression system works in this game is so much more fluid in this game. And it's actually, Liam mentioned it in the thing the other day, and I mean, and it was one of the first things I noticed too when you're playing the game is that things are not arbitrarily locked behind other skills that you have to do to branch out that way.
Yeah, you can unlock the second to last. I think
there are very, very few, and I mean like maybe 2 that are tied to a progression, and it's because it's the same skill getting bumped over and over again. And there's maybe 1 or 2. I know it's not over 2. But the idea behind it is that from the beginning you can start to build this character setup the way you want. Which is great. I mean,
I highly recommend the grapple hook and then the gliding suit.
Yeah,
as your first 2 uploads. Too.
Sure. But those upgrades are great. They make the game feel like you're getting to grow your character organically, which is probably the best thing about the game. But that does lead me to one of the ones that I. Okay, I'm going to finish it up first. So going back to the idea of perk points and what they do real quick is that they've added what's called arcade mode to this game.
Yeah.
The arcade mode is also an idea of giving you something to change up and break up the gameplay. It basically puts you in a map, gives you the ability to just, hop in. There's team deathmatch for actual multiplayer if you want to do those. If you want to do solo and co-op, then you can actually go through and do like a bounty hunt or a custom-made map they've done that is like an outpost. Sometimes they're very large, and I was actually impressed.
Map editor.
Yeah, and there is a map editor if you want to make your own.
The famous
or play other
map editor. They're
which has been gone since 2.
Has it really?
Yes.
No way.
I'm fairly positive. I spent a lot of time in it in 2.
That's terrible. Yeah, 2. Dude, I spent half my game in there. I would just make tall mountains and then just glide off of them with a paraglider.
I don't think a paraglider
or hang glider.
Yeah, that's right. That game was really big on hang gliders.
Yeah,
I forgot about that.
Yeah, I would do like a big old ocean around me, and like that would freak me out because it'd be like real tall, deep water.
Yeah, sure. But. Have you played arcade mode much?
I have. I played like probably 10 rounds total of team deathmatch and various maps, and then I have not messed with the map editor at all.
Have you done any of the solo co-op stuff?
No.
Oh, okay. I would advise doing that just to see what it's like. It's pretty fun. There's some pretty big outposts that there's one that's like an entire island
And it's an outpost of enemies?
Yeah.
Oh, that's really cool.
And they're really
they're all
spread out.
fan-made, right?
And there's like, no, some of them are Ubisoft made.
Oh, okay.
I think the one I'm talking about is Ubisoft made. But
Somebody
point
made
being,
a Ocarina of Time map.
Lord.
It looked so bad.
oh Lord, people have done Nuketown and stuff for multiplayer.
No, I actually played on one of those that did not look that. It didn't look that bad at all, actually.
No,
it
yeah.
looked like a pretty good recreation.
But going back into the progression system part of that is that starts to reward you, and one of the things the game continuously does well, like we say, is loop everything back to your core gameplay experience of combat, and that's by also letting the perk points that you get in arcade mode, no matter how you get them, back into your perk points that are persistent through your campaign and your normal character. So one of the things about that is that there's a level system tied to this, and that's what your rewards are tied to. So I don't know if there's a level cap on it or not, but basically as you continue to play arcade, no matter how you're doing it, it'll start to compile your wins and your points and how well you do versus how bad you do. If you die too early, you'll still get some experience, which levels you up, but you'll get more if you complete it, and even more if you complete it without being seen or things like that.
That's kind of cool.
Which is a good back end, and it makes you feel like you have a reason to do well and you're getting rewarded for it. And pulling it back into your main campaign means that you can change up your gameplay pacing. Like you can get through with an area and then I kind of want to get away from the open world, do something more structured, a little more fun with a different idea behind it, be it multiplayer or a specific bounty hunt, or go through this entire area and kill every enemy. And it gets progressively harder as you do so. Things like that. And then some of them are even called like events or something where you go through and it's like a journey, I think is what it's called, and you'll work your way through a weird area.
Like an obstacle course?
Basically.
That's kind of
It's
cool.
very odd. Some of them are weird. Like there's one that has one that has clocks floating, and like as you're walking it starts inverting the walls on you. It's pretty wild. So breaking the gameplay pacing up by letting you do something different, but then letting you reward yourself back into the main gameplay, it feels like you're taking a break, but you're still benefiting yourself in the campaign, which is nice.
Right.
That kind of idea, it was something that other games have attempted in their own ways, one of them being Killzone Mercenary. The idea that you had one stash and that your money from your campaign and your money from your multiplayer escapades were all in one pool, and that you could use that money across. That way you could already have a good setup for multiplayer if you played the campaign. You came in. I like that idea. So it lets you kind of pull in that way. I think that that's something that we need to see more often in games. So I think that that's a great way to reward players. And it's just it's an interesting idea. I mean, co-op is one of the biggest pushes they had on this game, and they have multiple ways to support that idea, and that's cool. Even being able to play the whole game was like that. I mean, they've been pushing co-op since 4. That was one of 4's biggest pushes. And
I remember that.
So, I mean, Primal did not worry about it as far as I can remember. I mean, Primal was a reskin of 4, so it's not surprising to me they didn't worry about it. They didn't have any multiplayer component, which
wasn't
smart.
Blood Dragon a reskin of 4, or was that a reskin of 3?
3, and that wasn't even a reskin. It wasn't a standalone. It was a I don't think it may have been standalone eventually. I can't remember, but it was part of the season pass. For 3.
Oh, I thought it was like a remake with weird graphics and stuff.
No, Blood Dragon was just, I mean, it was the same engine as 3, just like Primal was the same engine as 4. It was just set up to be played wildly different. It had its own storyline and everything. So
I did come across well, I'll wait for that for spoilers, just in case.
Okay, well, we'll move into spoilers in just a second, and we'll try and kind of wrap those up. But
so what did you not like about the game? That's not spoilers.
Okay, so from a mechanical standpoint, one of the things that they've taken away, this is another change to wrap all that up, is in 3 and 4, and 3 being the main one, they introduced the idea of hunting. And they made the game have a bigger RPG backlog, which made it feel more rewarding to, again, be able to build your character in your own way. And it's funny because this game did that in some ways better than 3 and 4 did, but then 3 and 4 did it in some ways better than this one. So now they've moved all the ability of being able to like increase your ammo and stuff. They moved the ability to have an extra gun and extra holsters and all that. It used to be tied to hunting,
right?
Getting skins, finding the specific hunting grounds on the map of specific animals, and then making sure that you got them, and then getting done, taking back after you get everything done, and then crafting this holster. Now you have a new holster, and that means you could if you wanted to hop into the game and the first thing you wanted to do was go and just hunt and build your character up to a max of like, I can hold all 4 weapons right now before I've ever even done. Well, I mean, you've done probably at least one mission, but before I've completed much of the game, you could increase your wallet size so you can carry more money. You could increase.
Is there a money cap in this game? I wonder.
No,
I haven't hit it.
No, as far as I'm aware, no.
I've carried like 8 or 9 grand.
Yeah, so I mean, right now I'm at like 5,200, or 52,000. Sorry,
52,000. I just bought all kinds of things.
I bought stuff too, but that's why I'm probably a little bit lower right now. But yeah, that idea of being able to like increase your grenade storage, your arrow storage, you could build a quiver, you could build. I mean, everything was like, okay, I can build my character the way I want to, and I don't have to waste any points or any time or anything on something I don't need. Right. But majority of it you'd wanted because it was like a way to build your character. Well, while that was there, all of that's been moved to the perk point system in this new game. I don't like the de-emphasis of hunting because here's my problem. It's still in the game, but for the only sole reason is to just get more money. Yeah, the only thing that hunting is useful for is to get skins to sell.
You reminded me, like, because I don't think hunting was a thing in Far Cry 2, was it?
It was not.
Okay.
No, that was something that was specifically a new addition to 3, and it was one of the things that made 3 feel so RPG-like. So 2 being the one I've not played in the longest, I don't remember if 2 had this, but 3 and 4 carried the idea of being able to pick up different herbs so that you could craft syringes, which would be like your med kit.
Right.
And you could...
I don't remember.
I don't remember 2. I feel like it did, but I know that 2 had the Far Cry staple that I cannot believe they have removed, and it just makes me so mad because I still just miss it. Is the ability to have so basically this game has got one big health bar that slowly goes down, and then if you just wait, it'll eventually work itself way back up. The way that Far Cry 3, 4, and even 2 did it is that you had health segments, kind of similar to Resistance 1 and Resistance 3, where when you got shot, if you were still within that same block and you hid within time, that block would refill.
Right.
If you got down to your third block out of the 4,
it wouldn't.
It would only refill the third one if you stopped getting hit. So it would refill on a block-by-block basis, and then you'd have to heal yourself. Well, one of the ways the other...
fully recharges your health. I just never realized that.
It does.
Like,
do you remember one of the staple things from 2, and it carried over into 3, 4, and Primal, is the ability to get into cover and then slowly heal yourself by like popping your finger back into place, or digging a bullet out of your hand, and like or taking a lighter and burning a wound and then sealing it up. So like you'd heal yourself, and eventually the perks would let you bump it up to where when you did that self healing, it would heal even more.
And now
then you had the syringes for when you wanted to be back to full health.
Yeah,
and didn't have time to keep digging stuff out of you.
And now it's just the wrapping of the bandage around your hand.
And the way you used to do it was triangle, right? And that would be the way you'd let out fire and stuff. If you wrecked a car and you got hurt and you wanted to heal yourself while you're driving, you'd pull glass out of your hand.
Yeah.
It was a really cool idea for immersion. I mean, it was really, when it first started doing it, it was very new. It was the idea of healing yourself slowly by a whole like real methods, like dig a bullet out of your side and then wrap yourself up. It was never on your side. It was always like in your leg or in your arm so that you could visually see it because it's a first person game and they wanted you to get that experience.
And they take all those they took them all out, all the special animations.
And I hate that.
I completely forgot about that until this moment.
And so it
may not be something you realize until now.
I think if you've been a long-time Far Cry veteran and you've been wondering how this game's changed, what's funny is that they did not spend much time on the marketing campaign talking about the fact that this game was going to try and be a big shakeup.
It did not need a marketing campaign.
We're gonna get into that in a little bit. That's gonna be part of spoiler territory, and it's actually some things I have problems with. In terms of the way the game was sold versus the way that the game actually is turning out. I mean,
I don't remember how
obviously we think the game is great.
Yeah.
And now when I say marketing, I mean that also means things that, like what they show you at conventions and press conferences. So I mean, the way they've sold the game from the get-go and the way they've tried describing the game, they didn't bring a lot of these changes to bear, which is fine. Really, it was kind of a nice surprise to get the game and learn that I didn't have to climb up a bunch of towers and things like that. But the game starts to try and minimize the things that I thought were the most unique about Far Cry and replace them with an attempt to be accessible, which I just don't feel was necessary. I think that you make the game accessible by making they did a lot of it. They made the game accessible by not making you grind over getting these stupid things like going and doing this radio tower.
Yeah.
If they would have left the option in for hunting to build your own things, that'd have been great. If they still wanted to have it to where you could do perks. I mean, I get some of the ideas behind it. But it seems like it's an attempt, and this is probably going to be my closing argument about the game as a whole.
Okay.
I love the game. I absolutely love the game. It's extremely fun to play, and at the end of the day, that's what Far Cry is about.
Right.
Being fun to play and having enough of a story reason that's just supposed to be a vehicle to pull you forward into more chaotic action.
Yeah.
All right, that's the primary reason people love the game. One of the reasons I love the game, though, originally was the RPG backends and getting to build that character and getting to hunt and then do something with the materials you hunted with. All of that being gone, taking away the healing by pulling things out. Everything that I felt was unique about Far Cry
has been mostly
has almost
removed.
been completely removed.
Yeah.
And by doing so, in an attempt to be more accessible, they have not quite, but almost bastardized the series to where it feels like this game is just enough like Far Cry, because like I say, you play it and you're like, this is Far Cry, but then all the other things that were like the meat and bones, it's like, here's the Far Cry skeleton, right?
On the grand scale, it's lacking
It
compared
just,
to the past games.
It feels, and none of it feels like they transitioned their way out of it in a way that I felt was like really worthy, and I feel like those were things that personally needed to stay in the game. They are what gave the game its own identity to me. Now it starts to feel more like these other, and I didn't play a lot of it. I've played very, very, very little of it, but it feels like it's closer to Ghost Recon Wildlands, which Ghost Recon Wildlands is a huge change for the series, but I wanted Far Cry to retain that series identity that it built to a T. Now, I don't mean that things can't change, but there are things that you've got to, even if you want to evolve them, you got to evolve them in ways that still
that make the game make it
the unique experience it was. Because I mean, Far Cry
make it retain the name of the series it came from.
Yeah, because Far Cry 3 was the breakout success for the series, but Far Cry 3 did so by still being unapologetically Far Cry and building onto Far Cry in ways that were really cool. And Far Cry 3 was the game that made people really put Far Cry on the radar, and that made Far Cry 4 a huge success. And Primal was a pretty big success. And now 5 is the best-selling one. But I think 5 is the best-selling one based off of the pedigree of the series past, people talking about it, and then also what we're about to move on to in the spoiler territory, but I'll let you kind of state your last remarks before we do that, is the promise of what this game was supposed to be and may be for some people, may not be for others.
I'm curious to hear this because, like I said, I did not, aside from like one trailer.
Some of it you'll get when I start talking about it, but we'll save that. So, Saul, what's your kind of wrap up for the whole game?
So I definitely recommend the game. Any kind of first-person fan, any kind of freedom person who likes just to do what you want to do in a video game. This is one of my biggest draws.
Are you talking about freedom in America?
Yeah, I guess so, apparently. I guess we'll find out in the spoiler part. But so like I loved Metal Gear Solid 5 so much because I could look at a base and I could be like, okay, I'm going to go this way into it. I'm going to do this, this, and this. And I could do the same thing in Far Cry. I could take out my binoculars, mark the enemies, take them down with stealth, go in, guns blazing. I can do whatever I want, and I like that kind of freedom. My problems with the game lie, and there's not many so far. It's somewhat repetitive in terms of the grand story, and I may elaborate on that in the spoilers. Brett already made touch on that as well.
Yeah, because actually I
feel like it's a lot of the same thing repeating itself in terms of the territories.
Some of it comes down to the way that they wanted to design the game, which is another complaint I have, but it makes more sense to talk about the complaint
in spoilers and stuff.
Actually, I'll quickly inject it because I do think that the first part of the complaint, not as to why it doesn't even make sense to me, but it's a worry that Ryan had, and I was hoping, because I played 4 and it was there in 4, but you could avoid it, is the game's random event structure is just honestly a little too much.
It's not that bad once you take out a couple outposts in the area. That's what stops all.
Sure, I guess, but I'm consistently
all
moving
the patrols and stuff. Yeah.
But they still exist, and they happen definitely when you first find yourself in an area. Yeah. It's so frequent that you start to feel like it's pulling you away from...
You don't get a chance to admire the game.
It pulls you away from playing the game the way you want to play it, right? Because now you're either going to die or you're going to have to...
No, I still played pretty still. Like, I still did everything kind of
I don't mean like that. Like, if I'm on the way to somewhere, like a quest...
Yeah.
Now I'm trying to get there. That's the way I want to do it. Right now, in this particular section of the game, I'm wanting to get to the next part in the quest. But in getting there, all the random events that are trying to go on around me are starting to stop me and slow me down or halt me, or even sometimes if I screw up, die, and then being set further back when I was just trying to get somewhere. It sounds like
you drove a lot of vehicles.
No, not really. I ran a lot.
See, I almost never entered a vehicle at all. And
but don't get me wrong, I would drive occasionally when it would make the most sense to get a far distance early game.
I didn't mind the random events in terms of like me running and then there's like a road. I'm going to cross the road. And I see cultists shooting at civilians. I'm going to save those civilians.
And I did that too.
And then, save them and that's done. I didn't find that too tiring. But I did find that the repetitive structure of the main story is there. It's pretty much do this main quest, do these other smaller main quest, and fill this bar up to go fight the boss. And we'll elaborate more on that. I don't think I really need to at that point.
Yeah, I mean, I want to elaborate on it but there's the reasoning behind it is I don't want to spoil anything tied to the way that you fill that bar and what happens as you continue to do it.
But other than that, like really realistically, just the repetitiveness of the game because the story so far has been great. I love the story. The characters are fine for what they are. Specifically, Father Joseph, he's actually really, really good. The actor who played him did a really good job, in my opinion. The opening, 10 minutes of that game are fantastic.
Very strong opening.
Yeah,
but
very strong
then
opening.
there's other things. That's why I want to get into the spoiler territory.
But as far as other flaws besides just kind of repetitive story progression, is that there's just some side missions that are just really, really, really annoying. And I feel like I needed to do them once I started. And there's one, I don't even think this is a side mission, but you have to kill a certain amount of boats and cars. It is so annoying to track down those boats that are thousands of meters away from you, only to be out in the middle of a lake. And then there's 3 of them. If you take a boat, they're going to kill you because they all have mounted guns. You can't snipe them because you can't snipe this far away in this game. So if I had to go I had to go find a rocket launcher at a shop and then come back. And by then they had moved upstream even farther. So I had to go then find a boat. It was really annoying. And that's not the only mission I have complaints with. Luckily, that mission's avoidable because every story mission in the game weirdly kind of is avoidable. If you don't want to do a particular mission, there's another way to fill that progress up. But
which is interesting. Which does go back to a strong sense of
freedom,
trying to let you play the way you want to play while some things are taking away. It's that's why I'm saying the game is a weird juxtaposition. But moving on into clear spoiler territory.
If you are in your car, we're going to give you guys a solid 10 seconds. This way, you pause us, do whatever you need to, and if you're at home, just click that pause button, come back when you beat the game, and then when you do beat the game, jump down in the comments and let us know what you thought of our spoiler section. Be sure to tag it though. So here we go. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1, and we are in spoiler territory. If you're still here, you're making a mistake. If you have not beaten the game, we haven't, so we're making kind of a mistake ourselves. We're just kind of touching on the little things.
But we're just touching on the story parts
that
we
are aware of currently.
This
is an impressions video, not a review.
Okay, so Saul.
Okay,
I got some qualms.
Don't spoil something for me though, because
I won't.
You're a little farther than I am.
I promise. I promise. I won't. This is what I need to know from you in this particular section before I go any further.
Yes.
Where exactly in the face area are you?
I am probably 1,000 RP away from beating it.
From her, okay.
Yeah, from
then I know
her.
Then I know what to filter out.
Okay, because I've beaten Jacob's section. I know you beaten John's section, right?
I've beaten John's. I've beaten Faith's, and I'm
on Jacob's.
I'm about halfway through Jacob's. So.
Okay, I'm glad you said that because now I know where to filter myself out.
Okay,
because I beat Jacob.
With that being said, as a grand scheme of what my problem with the game is in terms of the way they've set this up is for no matter how strong of an opening it was, and it was very good.
It was very strong too.
The continuation as you continue to go on, and one of the things I didn't mention in the non-spoiler section that I didn't mean to get to, which is fine, is the character creation, which is the most pointless thing in the world.
I think
the
armor customization is cool because you do see your gloves you're wearing and stuff, and I thought that was a nice little touch.
But I mean, oh well, because really it's
but have you noticed,
so shallow.
But have you ever noticed, it is very shallow. I swear I saw somebody playing with a beard. I don't know how you get beards. I swear I saw a reviewer have a beard.
Well, first of all, what does it matter? You don't see it.
That's true, but you do kind of see it. Have you ever seen your wanted posters around town?
Nah, probably. I don't know.
Oh, no, you would know if you saw it. It's literally your custom-made character on wanted posters.
I mean, I don't know. My custom-made character didn't spend 2 minutes on because it's stupid and shallow and not even in depth.
I went to
so not only is it there for no damn reason, it's not even a good character customization.
So I know where you're gonna go. You're about to go into pretty much the protagonist not being there.
Okay, no, there's a couple things. So yes, I will start with that since you said that. Is I do not like the idea of a silent protagonist, and there's a number of reasons I do not like the idea for a silent protagonist. Video listeners, Saul's adjusting himself. That's why I wanted to you're adjusting your muscles to prepare for sitting. But yeah, no, the thing about that is that with the lack of a clear character, I have such a hard time connecting with my character's motivations to do anything in this game. And what I want to say about that is and it's a little different for you because you didn't play 3 and 4, which had very strong, protagonist involvement in terms of dialogue.
Pagan Men.
Well, no, that's antagonist.
Oh, antagonist.
But no, your character. Okay, so one of the things about 2 is that 2 had a mostly silent but still occasionally speaking protagonist, right?
Yeah, with a bad case of mosquito bites.
And you were given a clear, reasonable thing, and you heard him, and you imagined him as a character. And some of this may come down to personal qualms, but it really comes down to just feeling no connection to the way the game wants to present its stuff to you. So what it comes down to is that 3 and 4 had very strong protagonists in terms of the fact that they said dialogue and they were their own character. Now, yes, you can make some decisions to influence them, but you just felt like you were making decisions based off of where you wanted them to go mixed with who they were. Like that's how I took it. But in this game, I feel like there's no reason that I personally, from a character standpoint, because my guy's not talking and telling me the reason why he would care about all these things or why he would do any of this, I feel like my character motivations are pointless and that they're actually just straight non-existent.
Yeah, like at this point in time, like you're obviously not. This game does a really good job. I'm going on a little tangent. This game does a really good job of making the game world feel apocalyptic, but it's not. That's what I really do like about
Actually,
it.
the game does a really bad job of that, in my opinion. And you want to know why? So
everything
give me your reasons as to why, and I will tell you my reasons as to why not.
The game feels lifeless. Like other than the couple civilians you see driving around and stuff, like the population, I feel like for towns this big, like when you think about it, this is a jail. So there's thousands of inmates somewhere around here or another that you don't ever see. Literally go into like a small city area. You have like restaurants and stuff. You don't see any of these people out except for the couple of civilians. So like it feels like, and they're probably all dead, but it feels like an apocalypse, but it's not. Like it feels like a zombie story, especially when you get to the jail. It reminded me a lot of like season 3 of Walking Dead, but which is the last good season. But It felt like I feel really closed off, like going inside preppers and stuff like that. It makes you feel like that this is the end of the world style game. But I also wonder, why can't the character at this point just get a car and drive away? Like,
okay, now
really cares.
This is where we're going to go into setup of the story, right? Okay, so the way the game is set up,
aside from his
and this ties into your thing,
his buddy being kidnapped by Faith or by everything. But eventually, you know what?
Here's the thing: we're not going to go into all this just yet. What I want to say is the game setup. Okay, for those who've played it, we are with where we're at. The game setup is strong, right? I will admit that, but it's only strong because of specifically the way the marshal is wanting to react to Joseph. But realistically, the star of the opening is Joseph.
Of course, yeah.
All right, and then of course the crazy cult actions that lead you into the hell that you end up getting into.
A dude literally kills himself to stop the helicopter. He jumps into the propellers of the helicopter to stop it.
So. Awesome, right? And then how creepy he is whenever he's like, "I told you, God wouldn't
to
let
you."
Yeah,
he just comes into view singing.
And then of course the little twist of him saying like, "Everything's clear here, Peggy," and she's like, "Of course, praise be the Father," or something.
Oh yeah, on the
comm, and then you're like, "That bitch Peggy," or whatever her name was. Her name was. It was something weird with
I was gonna say it'd be ironic if it was Peggy.
It would be funny. I think it was like Penny. No joke.
Yeah, it was something.
But regardless, so the setup strong, really set the mood. But and then it goes as far as to explain some things that help you, because the first gap you have to get over when you move this game into the United States is, if this is happening in the middle of the United States, why are the United States not doing anything about it?
Yeah, like you are there with a U.S. Marshal, but I feel like there's something else that could have been done.
So here's the thing:
two people.
You're
a junior deputy.
Four people is what they send as a whole. You, the sheriff, the girl, and the other.
The girl's not. They didn't send because she's, praise be Father, she's with them already. So
no, not the.
Who's the other girl you're talking about?
There's 4 people in the helicopter at the beginning. You have yourself, the sheriff, the girl who John has, and then the guy.
Never mind. Yeah.
And then
U.S. Marshal.
Yeah, the U.S. Marshal. And I guess actually there's technically, I don't know, it's something a 5th, because there's one that's in Jacob's area. He says that you should have run, you shouldn't have even come here, and he's wearing the helicopter thing. I don't know if he's a pilot or what.
I
can't remember him being there, but
essentially it's you and then 3 other people with the U.S. Marshal, and you're a junior deputy.
Okay, but let's continue to roll through. So what the story does to set up there is that it says, hey, now that this has happened and that he's got himself bleeded in enough into the police and everything, he's cut all phone lines, all communication lines, everything. He's shut down all the roads. There's no way anybody's getting in or out. He's got planes patrolling the sky. If someone tries to fly in, they can get them, right? So there's no way that anybody can get the message out that things have gone this south, right? Fine. That's great. That's how it needs to happen. But the first thing the game does to just completely go against that and just drive away from that is my direct response to what you said on your tangent, and that is that the game does an awful job of making it seem like it's holding true to the story that it's set up. This town is not that big. The cities that you go to do not have that many homes in them. Falls End is not very big at all. Which I don't know if you've been to John's area yet, but that's where Falls End is.
You basically start in Falls End. That's your very first mission to go to.
basically, but you don't have to go that route.
Yeah, no,
but,
I did not go that route. Yeah.
So, but Falls End, okay, you go to, not very big, right? There's like
No.
a church and a couple, and like a drinking tavern that's way
Yeah.
too big for the amount of houses that are around. And then even if you talking about the random houses that are out and about, right? Everything's far spread out. There's obvious that this is a more country town. There's probably not a lot of people because there's not a lot of homes. Even when you including what I've seen home wise in Jacob's area, Face area, and John's area, including Dutch's Island in the middle, there's just not that many people, right? But do you know how many cultists I've killed?
Probably 500 or 600 or 700 or 1,000.
Yeah. Okay. Do you know how many civilians have died because I didn't get to them in time, or because I accidentally shot them, or whatever it be?
Probably a handful.
Okay, I've seen plenty of them die because I don't get to them in time, or because they're dead on the road because one of the angels or whatever got to them. All right.
Those are cool.
Here's the problem: no one's coming in or out. How are there more civilians? How are there more cultists?
Yeah.
How are there more?
I could see that.
The biggest problem is that every old Far Cry game, you could suspend disbelief because you were just out in the wild. These could be hired mercenaries. These could be private military. These could be people coming in because the roads aren't shut down. These could be people coming into this problem, you know?
Well, and
every bit of that, when you saw these people, you're like, okay, whatever, I get this. There's at least a way to suspend your disbelief. This game constantly fights that by saying, hey, there's no way anybody's supposed to be coming in here, and there's all these people dying, yet here's more people.
I can imagine that, like any city that's like on a mountain like that, there's a major highway near there somewhere. They have to block off, because then people would find it.
Yeah,
So
everything's blocked off.
I would imagine somebody who tries to travel down that blocked off highway, or even goes to that blocked off highway, could become kidnapped. See, that's the thing, though. It's like I've been having so much fun with the gameplay alone. I had these little things haven't popped up. That's why I'm not going to have much at all for spoilers.
Yeah, and it gets weird for you because you're also coming back, so you're kind of getting over.
Yeah. I'm more so
like, whoa, back to Far Cry playing.
This is more so like a very new person with a little bit of Far Cry, even though I had quite a lot. It's just so long ago.
Yeah, see, whereas I've been Far Cry, and the thing is that all the other games did a better job of handling this specific aspect.
I would definitely say that if you are a new Far Cry person, you would love this game. Like,
I mean, sure, I guess, but my point being is that's my qualm with it, right?
Yeah.
I'm not saying this has to be for everybody, and I'm not saying it's honestly to the detriment of the game. I still think it's a good game. It's just I think it could have been better in this particular aspect. I feel like there should have been more of a reason. Now, now having a completely voiceless protagonist that you're supposed to make, your character model ends up looking bad because they didn't spend enough time. Whereas before, when you saw your character model on 3 and 4, I don't even think you did in 4, but you saw your character's face in 3, and you looked good
at the very beginning.
You looked good though. I mean, like you saw your character. You're like, I look like a good character model. When you die, now that you see your body when you die, whereas in the other games you didn't,
it looks like a PUBG character.
It's ragdoll stuff, and it looks like a PUBG character, which is not.
The multiplayer looks like PUBG, to be fair.
Yeah, and that's not a good.
It's still fun.
In my opinion, for the level of game this is. But yeah, suspension of disbelief is a big deal. Character motivations are a big deal, and that comes from it being silent. He doesn't say anything, and the problem with that is that people talk to you on the radio, right? In the previous games, when people talk to you on the radio, you would respond.
And that may
and you would start to build this character. You're like, oh man, my character's pissed at him for this, or he's trying to hurry, or he's got some other reason, or he's going to say something like, he's got feelings and thoughts, and he's a person. I feel like I'm just a shell doing things that I'm told to do.
Well, see, that may be where, and this is what a difference we've always had, is that like this might be where, and I like it so much because there is nobody talking, and I can just think by myself, like, yeah, okay, I'll go do this because this is literally me doing this. Like, this is my experience.
Sure, and breaking off is one thing.
Because at this point, there's no actual protagonist like story.
Sure, but okay, let's go back.
Depth.
So if there's no depth to your protagonist, and there's no character development, and there's no reason that is pre-established as to why you should care, right? Yeah. And that's what character building is going to do. Then why are you going out of your way to stop John?
You still got a kidnapped. And see, I haven't gotten that far.
Yeah, but let's go to Jacob. All right, I don't know who he has or if he has anybody, but my point being, why specifically Faith? You know that Faith has the marshal,
right?
All right, and
beautiful area, by the way. Like
super cool. But yeah, so you know that Faith has the marshal,
right?
All right, and you know that eventually Faith gets the sheriff,
right? No, did not know that.
You should have already.
Nope. I'm telling you, I'm only 1,000 RP. 1,000 RP is quite a lot, by the way. That's like 3 missions.
Yeah, but I mean, that happens after the 3rd hunting, and that's actually
the last cutscene I had was when the marshal came back, but he's still kind of out of it. Must be your phone.
Well, then you're farther than 1,000 RP, boy.
No, my bar is like not much at all left.
Well, I'm sorry to.
And that could be
I'm
that-
sorry to have ruined that for
that
you.
could
I guess
be-
it doesn't really.
No, that's not a huge spoiler to me. Like, and that's the thing is like I'm literally like just playing the game. This game could have no story, and I wouldn't care. It's such a good gameplay.
Sure, I mean
like,
the gameplay's good, but
it's
if you're gonna have a story, then why half-ass it?
That's
Within
true.
reason. Now, of course, I've said something to the contrary because I said that Lords of the Fallen was just a fun game, and Lords of the Fallen was just a fun game. But here's the thing: this game had the ambition.
It has the story that keeps me going.
It had the ambition to try and market itself as this big story, and we'll get into the marketing in a minute. I still want to spend a little more time on the character motivations, but when you're doing all that, I feel like you have to start trying to bring it home, right? If you're gonna be like, a story is gonna be a big deal. That's why the subject matter is so important, and that's how we're marketing it. It's gonna be this crazy thing. It's gonna be a social commentary, and all that we'll get into a little bit later. But when you start to go over through character, when you don't have this voiced character, and you're supposed to be doing these things. Yeah, okay, sure. I guess you could just use them as, okay, it's just the next vehicle for me to move to a new area and do something different, which it's actually already an issue because most of what you're doing is the same. The majority majority of the way that you build your resistance meter is by freeing civilians, blowing up property,
outpost, and then story missions.
Yeah.
Have you done the alien gun?
No, not yet. But I know what you're talking about.
Yeah. Got a character from
so with that,
movie in there.
let's go to so the marshal, right?
Right.
You're led to believe. No, okay, let's just go off of your actual description, which is this is you.
Right.
So your
Right.
very first and only interaction with the marshal.
No.
Hold up. I guess you could split it into two if you wanted, but your very first and only interaction with the marshal, just to finish the way I worded it, is going to the compound or the church, going in there, talking to Joseph. Then y'all get back in, y'all wreck. You run, you find him, y'all drive somewhere, get wrecked, and then you wake up. Okay? The whole intro. The intro is the only time you spend with him. Why do you care as a player to go and save him?
Because it's fun to kill the enemies.
See, but
the gameplay works so well that's not something that like
I guess it's good that you're. I guess it's good that you're that kind of person because we can bounce these things off of each other.
I haven't thought of that at all. It's basically like, oh, they got my friend. Let me go find how to get my friend out. Now, who has my friend? Hey, these mountains look kind of cool. I'm in Jacob's area. Cool. Does he have my friend? No, he doesn't have my friend. Let me go down to Face area because that's cult waifu down here. I'm gonna go down here and see what she's about. Okay, and that's where I'm at now. But it's not like Nier where like I'm thinking about the story of anything when I'm not playing it. Like Nier, I was sitting there thinking in my head about the story. This is more so of like, yeah, it's pretty decent. Like the main bad guy's really cool. I haven't seen a whole lot of him, but like I want to get to him.
Which is actually another thing I have about the game. But that's why I want to say it's very clearly, these are my qualms. These are things that I have problems with, definitely. And these are framed around me being a longtime Far Cry fan and what this does in comparison to what the series had done before and why I feel like this is actually, in some ways, a step back.
Right.
No voice protagonist, huge deal with me because I don't feel connected to my character at all.
That's
it's actually kind of making me not care that much to go through. The most interesting parts of the game are where they try, and every game's done this, where they try and like flip things on its head to make you kill other people or whatever like that to make you crazy, like the Bliss, going into the Bliss and doing all these different things. But
which with you and Jacob's whole thing, like, are you killing real people or is this supposed to be a hallucination? That's never made clear.
Neither is it in Face area.
Like that
when they disappear as gas, it's like, did I kill somebody?
Well, see, like that's one thing that irritated me is that like obviously you did something. You haven't beaten Jacob's area yet.
Yeah, I'm not.
Okay,
but here's my point.
It's obviously impactful, but I just don't know how or why. Like it's never explained. Like I'm into the Bliss. Okay, I'm in this room. It's like an arcade. It feels like the very original COD zombies. Like it feels just like that. And for some reason, I'm doing it. I don't know why. Like I guess it's kind of revealed towards the end there, but it's like at that point, it's like, has all the past ones been real and this one hasn't? Like, I don't know what's going on.
Yeah, see, and that's the setup.
That may be what it leads you to believe.
Even Face area is weird because it starts to be like, what is and isn't happening?
Yeah.
How is she doing some of these things so that it doesn't even make sense? Because now
it sure doesn't.
It starts to get into some supernatural
areas. It's like, how did I pull that man out the gate?
That's my point.
He was like not there.
So you randomly get into the Bliss, and now the Bliss is a new dimension that you can go and reach somebody.
I'm running through a field high as shit. And then like, there's the guy.
But then you're suddenly just warping to this man and pulling rolling them out. See, none of this makes
I
sense.
don't know.
That's my point.
But it's been such a fun game to do that I don't care. I'm gonna go kill me some more. I keep want to say Nazis.
And you know, my
They're
thing
not Nazis,
is like the
they're
game's so
cultists.
fun, right? And I'm still playing it, and the story is enough that I'm really hoping that as I get to the end, it goes through.
I really hope there's a good payoff with Joseph. Is what I'm thinking.
Now that we've gotten through all that, those are majority of my complaints. I mean, it's just that there's so many things that make me feel disconnected from the game from a story perspective. And you know me being a story person, I at least, even if it's not a great story, I want to feel like I understand
a good story. Though. You want a solid story.
I want to understand why my character is doing what he's doing.
Yeah, you want character motivation.
And that's why,
it
you know,
makes
we
sense.
often talk about, I don't normally play games where you make your own character. Or if I
or
do,
even games like Monster Hunter for super, super long, because once you're done with the story and then we're done with the in-game activities, you wait for an update to come back.
See, and then the weird thing about Monster Hunter is that Monster Hunter still did give me enough of a reason of why I'm doing things, because the setup was different, right?
Yeah.
My thing is like one of the setups, to finish off the story part, is that one of the setup problems I have is that apparently you're a deputy here, junior deputy. Have you not lived here ever? Or
no, you're
not a U.S. Marshal deputy. You're a deputy under the sheriff,
and that's what
the sheriff's been there. So why don't you know any of this is going on? Well, why do you not know these areas? Why do people not know who you are?
I don't know if junior deputy is a broad term enough to go into the U.S. Marshal. Like you're a junior deputy for the U.S. Marshal.
Well, but I know specifically because the sheriff is ordering you in different things as you're playing the game. You are the sheriff's
and they
deputy.
keep calling you rookie too. And
yeah, because you're the rook. You're the rookie. You're the rookie. You're the junior deputy.
Right.
You're a rookie.
I can't imagine they mean that's for that area.
No,
I would really hope not.
I mean, it sounds like you're a rookie.
Now, I know that. That's what I'm thinking.
But Hope County's bigger, so of course it's going to be multiple cities.
I'm pretty sure you're a rookie for the U.S. Marshals.
No, I'm telling you.
There's no absolute way I'm a deputy to Hope County.
There is something coming up where you're a deputy to the sheriff, and you will know this because of a line that he said. That's not a spoiler by any standard, but it's made clear that you are a deputy to the sheriff.
I know that never once crossed my mind that I'm from this area.
Now, the only person who's from the U.S. is the U.S. Marshal.
Yeah,
he's the only.
You mean from different state?
Yeah, you know what I mean. But he's from the government.
Yeah.
Whereas, I mean, I guess state government. He's from the federal government.
So you're a brand new
state. So
maybe you transferred in from another job or from another state, and that was your first mission is to go to a cultist church.
So you're a junior deputy, and you moved to this place knowingly. See,
maybe not knowingly though. That may be the whole first part of that. May be the whole.
You don't
point
think
of the
that you
first
went and did an
mission.
interview and been like, man, what's up with these crazy crosses and the statue of a man that I've never seen before?
That's true too. The gameplay's fun though. I'm gonna keep falling back on that.
I mean, that's fine.
It is a super satisfying gameplay.
And I mean, I'm sure the argument can be made that I'm just digging in and looking too deeply into things, right? But I mean, these are my problems with the game.
I mean, yeah, it is a first-person shooter.
Moving on into the marketing, and it's going to be the last thing that we do because this has gone on actually longer than I thought it would.
Yeah, I got pulled pork at home. That's probably going to be two. It's going to be tough. It was already 30 minutes ago, and I hope my slow cooker didn't explode.
Well, then let's wrap this up. But the point being,
yeah, like what's the marketing?
Because the way the marketing, the way the game was marketing is it's going to be this. Like the way they kept showing it was like, oh man, this is going to be a controversial story, right? This is going to be about this. People were wanting to be like, oh, this is about Christians. This is a big deal, right? The game has the game for the most part is not even about. It doesn't even focus as much on religion as you would think it does.
It doesn't at all.
Outlast and Outlast 2 felt more to their subject matter than this game has.
Was that something that this game was marketed as being like a heavy religious thing?
It was supposed to be very religious.
Because I knew
and you're wrong. It is the base. It's the subject matter base. It's the cult, yes.
And see, that's what I knew going into it.
But the rest of the game does not really frame it off that. It's actually about just individual people and then what they're doing. I mean, it's loosely there, and it's loosely in there enough to stitch things together. But
and see, that's what I'm curious about with Joseph. Because like,
there was supposed to be a lot of political stuff in this game, though.
I'm glad there's not.
Oh, but in a way of social commentary, right? And here's the thing I love about social commentary. Well, hold on. Here's the thing I love about social commentary is that social commentary, regardless of what it's supposed to be, is like the whole time when you're consuming a product, right?
Right.
Different characters have their own motivations, right? So you start to see the game through, like, say your protagonist has a very specific idea about what politically is okay in this setup and what's going on in the grand scheme of things, like maybe racism or sexism or religious, purging and stuff like that.
Games?
Well, first of all, a lot of the games you like already cover a lot of things that are political.
Yeah, but they're not pop out annoying at you. Like,
well, no, and I don't mean that. But this game also doesn't do anything. Here's the problem with this game. This game was saying it's going to be about social commentary and framing itself and talking about it in a way.
I never heard that.
What it does.
That was the thing.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's supposed to be, it's taking place in America. It's going to have a religious cult and talking about what happens when certain groups of people are starting to get terrorized. It was supposed to be social commentary is not supposed to be direct. It's supposed to be a mirror mirror in a way that you see the things going on here that mirror the thing. And then here's the thing, though. Because of the medium, different characters are supposed to take their own political stances on this, but instead, no character ever takes a stance on what's going on besides it's obviously good or it's obviously bad, right?
And I guess
when things come up, there is no stance. And now this is the thing. This would never be a reason I would tell someone not to buy the game, except for the fact that if you went into the game with this expectation, it's not going to meet the expectation.
Yeah,
now in terms of what matters in the game, we covered that in the pre-spoiler part. The game is fun. It is a good game.
Right.
Now, it's a good game when you don't try and dive too deeply in the story. If you are someone who loves story, this starts to be where it weak points out. Now, from a arc to arc basis, I liked Face arc. I don't like that Face. I don't necessarily think that Face.
How did you like John's arc compared to everybody else? Because
that's my last John's arc was good as well.
Okay.
But here's the thing: John's arc and I like Face arc better.
Okay.
But some of that is to do with just her area being more wild.
Right.
I feel like John is supposed to be the first area in terms of. I'm pretty
sure they drop you and falls in closer to falls in than anything else.
You're in the island and then they tell you to do it falls in. But
I think coincidentally that's in the middle of all of them that is not in anybody's area.
Yeah,
the one spot of land that's not in anybody's region.
So but the way that ends up being like they thought the game were going to go down there. I think because it's the first thing it tells you to do. So I think that they think, and I did. I mean, I just followed the objective marker. I was like, I'll start down here. I know that you can go other areas.
Yeah.
But oh Lord,
so I just explored went north.
So here's the thing: I like the individual character arcs, right? I like John's arc enough; it was cool. But how it fits into the grand scheme, right now, I don't feel like it's very strong. Face, I don't feel like it's very strong. And okay, in previous games like 3 and 4, you would see Pagan, or you would see Voss, or you would see later game 3. You would see these characters spur their way in and antagonize you and do these things. The main bad guy, right? And then you would see the individual people on their own thing. You would see them occasionally, right?
You haven't even really seen Joseph.
In this game, you only
which is what I'm really curious about.
You only see Joseph when you're done with an area, right? Or in face visions, but that's not really seeing Joseph. That's like the only other time that you see him.
Jacob, you've seen him once or twice before you're done with his area.
Oh, I mean, okay.
When you're in the cage.
Yeah, well, but that's Jacob. I'm talking about, you see those people. You see John plenty of times.
You see Joseph.
Oh, Joseph.
Yeah,
okay,
when you're in the cage, the Joseph and Jacob are right there talking to each other. Okay. Talking to you. That's how you learn.
One of the only other times that you see that.
about faith.
Yeah, one of the only times you see that in John's area, which have you started it yet?
No.
Okay.
I've not done a
Then I'm not going to talk about it. But
yeah.
basically, you'll normally see him at least once at the beginning, but that's it. He doesn't come back to antagonize you. He's not spending enough time. You're getting all your building from him, from just hearing what the other people are saying, which is kind of smart in a way, because definitely Faith, as you continue to go, you start to wonder how exactly she feels about all this, because you're seeing all of her stuff through the bliss, right?
Right.
And you start to hear things, you're like, is that a nugget of truth, or is that,
like
are you still trying to deceive me?
No, it's something I am kind of confused about. Is Faith supposed to be Joseph's girlfriend?
Not necessarily, but
okay. Is
they're
like
not. They're not real family.
No, I know that much. She was basically a drug addict. He found, and saved.
And there's a part coming up. See, they're interesting parts. Consistently, the most interesting part of the game is specifically Joseph.
I want to know what's going to happen,
and I'm hoping the game resolves itself in a really.
Strongly.
But I said I hope this game would be very unapologetically like, oh, this is really super Christian cultist. Outlast 2 did that. This game is not trying. It's hard to do that. This game is trying harder to just give you a reason to keep going from area to area.
I do know that. Like, I went into the game thinking like, this is going to be sick. This is going to be like, we're from people in the Bible Belt. This is going to be somewhat in the Bible Belt kind of realm of things. It's going to be a cult. It's going to be like Westboro Baptist Church at the extremes. It is like that for some of the visuals, but not necessarily the people.
You know what's funny? And I think back to John's
some of the visuals are really cool, like the crucified people, the people who are like laying down with, like in that formation with the spikes to their body. Like, this is cool, and then seeing Sinner and stuff.
Yeah, but see, that stuff is not reflected that you actually see going on. It's like you're seeing the aftermath of it, which is not as engaging.
Well, I was gonna say that's
engrossing.
That's the extent of it, unless you're dealing with one of the main characters.
Yeah,
because you don't hear cultists like, unless I'm wrong. Like, I mean, I heard call me Sinner. But like it'd be interesting to see other things happen that like you see it in progress. I do think the cool that if you probably did it already, but in Face area when you go to the theme park or whatever, the amusement park, and the guy's standing up there and you're sitting there killing all the what are those zombies called? Angels, yeah. Yeah, did you do that one?
Which one? I'm sorry.
He's like playing a song.
Oh yes,
it was fun.
That was fun.
See, like that's the thing, is like the fun keeps me going. Like. I am very curious about the end game though. Like, what is going to happen with Joseph? Like, I really want to know, and I really hope it's a strong ending, because if it's not, it'll be definitely, I would recommend it on sale. No, I'd probably recommend it buying it if you've never played a Far Cry game.
One more weird thing for story for me,
Yeah.
that I feel like you've done enough of to be able to agree with or disagree with. I don't like that every area you go to has this bar, and every time you fill up a bar, you get hunted or marked. Or
No, yeah, that is super annoying.
And then the fact that every time that happens,
it's impossible to not to have it happen to you.
yeah, actually, it's impossible. B, you always get to go see the protagonist for the area. You know, the main protagonist for that area.
It's
and they don't do anything to you.
It's supposed to be interesting because it's supposed to make you feel like it's to bring you closer to the end goal of each of these protagonists or antagonists. But the thing is like it would be so much cooler for it to say like during Jacob's part you're being hunted, and instead of just like going outside and getting hit by a dart from some random direction, it'd be cool to see like 3 or 4 trucks coming down that were special. That you did have the ability to fight your way out of, or run, or whatever. Yeah,
it'd be very hard to run. Like they have air support and everything.
And then maybe say like you are the hunter after you kill them all to let you know like they're not after me anymore. Like it would be sick, but they don't do that. Instead, I was in the middle of a outpost. I killed the outpost. The cutscene with the down, which is another thing I do want to mention real quick. But I did that. I was blowing up a safe. And I got hit, and I'm like, that did not hurt me. What was that? And then I was like, oh,
you fall.
That was Jacob's thing. Yeah.
So, I mean, it's annoying, and it makes the game feel like it's paced badly in those particular spots. It feels every area you go into, you know it's going to happen right when it's going on. So,
have you ever seen Logan Lucky?
No, but I know what you're talking about.
You really need to see Logan Lucky. Every single note in this game, and I can do this because I'm from the South, I read it with an incredibly thick South accent. I do not know why. Like, me and Annie were sitting there one day, and, like, I forgot what the note said, but it was like, me and Mama went down to the grocery store, and we picked us up some broccoli and some tuna fish.
Oh, man.
Like, I don't know what it was.
Now, here's the thing. Most of the characters in the game are not, they're pretty bad. So, I mean, like, they're purposely trying to make you sound South.
Well, it's kind of weird. Yeah, I mean, it's good, though. But we thank you guys for tuning in. I think that's pretty much the extent.
Yeah, no, that's about what I had to say. This actually went on a lot longer than I thought, so I hope that we didn't bore anybody throughout this. This is, to be fair, this is our first time doing this in a while. I think next time that we do this, we're going to try and scope it down.
45 minutes to an hour, I think, is the perfect.
I'd say 30 to 45 would be best. So, but hey, you know what? If you watch this, listen to this all the way to the end of this point, and you like it, and then great. If you think that we should scope things down and be a little more prepared when we talk, I actually think that's probably a good idea. That's what I aim to do. So,
if you listen on YouTube, throw a like at us. If you enjoy the content, if you don't, let us know why in the comments. Throw a dislike. We don't care. We just want to know. We want feedback.
Yeah.
And if you are an avid SoundCloud listener, coming over, and if you just want to hang out on YouTube, and if you. I don't think there's a way to talk on SoundCloud. And if you don't have a Twitter, just pop onto YouTube and throw a comment down there and just hang out with us. But I think that about wraps it up. I definitely think it's an enjoyable experience so far with some nitpicks, and it's really been fun.
Yeah, I agree. So I'll wrap it up there too. If you like this video or audio thing, consider subscribing if you're on YouTube or following us on podcast services, because normally we post our episodes, like we said, on Mondays if this is your first time joining us. Otherwise, if you are a normal person that we interact with often, then we will see you on our next episode of the podcast. So thank you, Saul, for joining me.
Thank you.